This is a recording of Dreams and Social Justice featuring Ryan Hurd, a sacred inclusion exploration that took place September 20th, 2025. Today, we're privileged to have Ryan Hurd, a friend of mine, and I consider him a dream expert. He's got at least 5 books out, some of which are the most, I think the one that's probably the most widely read is the nightmare one. Is that right, Ryan?
Yeah, got sleep paralysis is the title.
Sleep paralysis, yeah. I consider Ryan a visionary leader. He's the founder of something called dreamstudies.org. And if you're involved in the world of dreams, I definitely encourage you to take a look at his website. He's got a tremendous, um, like lots of resources around dreams, around nightmares, around liminal, imaginal thinking, and it's all there. And you should check it out. Um, As I said, he's a leading expert, especially in lucid dreaming, and his insights extend beyond personal exploration and focusing on dreams as a tool for creativity, healing, and spiritual discernment. And we're delighted to have him.
So we're going to do a talk and it's interactive. And so there's going to be some times over the next, I guess, 80 minutes or so where I'll have an invitation for you if you'd like to do either a daydreaming exercise or free writing or some variation of that. So we'll split up our time with these little activities, and then we'll have time to talk about what came up too. But there are large chunks of me also just kind of talking at you, and I've got some stories to tell. And so I want to thank Angelo for inviting me to do this important talk, Dreaming and Social Justice. It's a convergence of something that I've been passionate about for a long time. And as Angelo said, I'm a dream researcher and an author. I lead a community at dreamstudies.org where we work with dreams and lucid dreams and mystical experiences and also social justice dreams as well. Uh, what else can I say? I have a history of leadership around social activism, and it's mostly through my faith tradition, which is Unitarian Universalism. And I have a humanist congregation that's just down the road from me in Germantown, where I attend and where I've also at times been a religious educator there. But my social justice history in a UU setting goes all the way back to when I was, I don't know, maybe 15 years old. Um, as we were marching against Bush Sr. and the first Gulf War and anti-oil, environmental activism since high school. I was involved with a bunch of environmental activism as a young adult. And more recently, as a religious educator, I've taught anti-racism to children. I've joined teens in the demonstrations here in Philadelphia that are important to them and supported them in their burgeoning justice work. And I've taught a large amount of clergy folks, ministers, social justice leaders, educators about the principles that we're going to go over today around rest and dreams and how it helps to ground us in our work, whatever our work may be, and to make that work sustainable. And that's really the one I say, anchor of this whole concept is like, how can we make what we do sustainable and not burn ourselves out um, as we engage in our work? And so I have an opening thought that I wanted to bring in from C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis says, quote, "It comes the very moment you wake up each morning. All your wishes and hopes for the day rush at you like wild animals. And the first job each morning consists simply of shoving them all back and in listening to that other voice, taking that other point of view and letting that larger, stronger, quieter life come flowing in, and so on all day, standing back from all your natural fussings and frettings, coming in out of the wind. And so that's what this workshop is about, is kind of reconnecting to that stronger, quieter voice. And so what the workshop consists of is basically three mini lessons. We're going to talk about rest. We're going to talk about how to calibrate your dreams to your passions and what's most important for you right now, and how to honor those dreams to create a conversation basically that continues. And so you'll walk away with some pretty easy to implement practices and hopefully a little hope for the future. Um, and that hope piece is important because, honestly, I'm pretty demoralized right now at the state of my country, politics, the world. I'm exhausted by the news. I'm having to really set some boundaries about knowing everything. I've had a lot of friends who've lost their social justice jobs, a lot of friends in the LGBTQ community who are terrified. Um, and there's one more thing, hearing a little bit of feedback. I'm just gonna check if you, I'm gonna go ahead and mute everybody there. Okay, sorry about that. Um, this piece is new for me, which is that I have chronic fatigue now from long COVID, in which that has made it even more difficult for me to put my white cisgendered body on the line for folks, like I have done for most of my life. And so I'm often asking myself, feeling stuck, basically, like, how can I help? Well, what can I do? And so that's so the spirit of this workshop comes sort of out of these questions from myself. And I also read this wonderful book recently that I absolutely recommend if you're a dreamer, a sensitive person, and interested in social justice. It's called Social Justice for the Sensitive Soul by Dorcas Chang Tozin. It's such a balm. And I just want to quote very briefly what she says. She says, how can we advocate for good causes in a way that is not only sustainable, but allows us to live authentically and joyfully? Okay, so how can we, as dreamers or sensitives or intuitive people, help? Uh, as I ask myself this question, I remember that I've literally trained for this, that there's more than one way to resist. And dreaming and dreamers have always been at the imaginal front line of resistance, of a gentler, intuitive approach to social justice. And just to give like some focus here, a dream image that comes through has become symbols of revolution, quite literally, at all kinds of times throughout history. Many times throughout history, dream symbols inspire people to sometimes to overthrow the government, sometimes to integrate the culture of colonial oppressors with native culture to create synergy and to allow violence to not happen. And so it's kind of, there's the ethnography is very strong on this point that images come through for people under times of eco-social stress. The dreamers come out of the woodwork, right? And so this is a topic that I've taught. I'm teaching actually right now for the University for Peace, which is in Costa Rica. I'm teaching online for them as part of um, a decolonization program, and I'm teaching dream studies in service of decolonization and indigenous renewal. Um, I don't have time to go into all these wonderful stories and history. I mean, let me tell you, it's dreams are the original meme. Like the images that come from us go far, and they contain multitudes. So I thought maybe I'd start with a story of a man who did this, who spoke to power. He was someone who was committed to social justice, but he was also a deep introvert. He didn't like to speak at meetings. He was really soft-spoken. He often stammered, and so his body would shake from anxiety. When he did speak, people spoke over him again and again, and so he learned to use the power of the written word to get his message out. And he would meet with people one-on-one. And this is how he shared his vision of a more peaceful and just world. And I'm speaking about Gandhi, who today we would call textbook a highly sensitive person, neurotypical, neurodivergent person who found his way. And what's, I think, really important to focus on is that he did more than listen to his dreams. He shared his dreams and he acted on his dreams. And here's an example of this. In 1919, Gandhi was stymied. This was sort of in the middle part. He's been at the work for a while. He was not sure how to proceed. In India, he was frustrated by riots that had been caused by a new bill, a deeply racist bill that was seen as a huge overreach in power, British power in colonial India. There are massacres happening on the streets, protesters, police, bystanders, people were losing their lives. Gandhi was calling for a nonviolent approach, of course, but this time temperatures was too hot. No one was listening. And the newspapers had already basically refused to publish his letters at this point. So he was writing letters to the editor and they're not publishing them. So this is what happened next, according to from his autobiography. He says, news was received that the roulette bill had been published as an act, or basically codified. He says that that night I fell asleep while thinking over the question. And then towards the small hours of the morning, I woke up earlier than usual. I was still in that twilight condition between sleep and consciousness when suddenly the idea came to me as if it was a dream. So the next morning, he relayed this dreamy vision, to his friend, an idea that what if they called on everybody to observe a day of fasting and prayer? And this was risky because there's a lot of religious traditions in India. They all observe prayer on different days. And you're making a big ask. It's a big ask of the religious leaders. Uh, but they agreed and they put the message out and the violence stopped in the streets. Um, but their collective action of sitting of peaceful, nonviolent bodies, days, everyone praying on the same day halted business life, right? And it created an opportunity for negotiation and for change. So notice what Gandhi did here. He found that his usual methods were not working. He was stymied. And what he did is he retreated. He literally retreated. He went to the country to a friend's house to rest and pray and meditate. And so these are all right methods of what we would call today self-regulation of his own nervous system. He was like, I need a break. But when he took that quote unquote break is when the dream came, this liminal moment that gave him this breakthrough idea. So yeah, this is the way. There's another activist I want to bring up, which is Minister Tricia Hershey, also known as the Nap Bishop. Another, ooh, let me tell you, this is the book right here. Rest is Resistance, a manifesto. Pick up this book. Pick up this book. It is, you'll read it before bed and it will put you to sleep in all the right ways. So rest for Trisha is it's central to her work. Uh, Her primary audience and focus is the Black community, especially for Black liberation. Her central argument is that rest is reparations. But she invites a wider audience, folks like myself, to support her work, to share her work, and learn from her wisdom about that the healthiest way of resistance to an unjust system is to notice our labors and disentangle them from our worth and from our identity. Like, what are we grinding for, right? And this is how Hershey says it. She says, quote, "We must stand and lay firmly in the space of creating a life filled with rest and radical care, even amid oppression. Grind culture has made us all human machines, willing and ready to donate our lives to a capitalist system that thrives by placing profits over people. So the rest is resistance movement is a connection and a path back to our true nature, that we are enough, that we are divine." Isn't that wonderful? So I want to talk a little bit about what is rest, and I think that there's a lot of room for flexibility here. But let me say what rest isn't. And so what rest isn't is wine and chocolate and doom scrolling and reading the news and watching entertainment to distract oneself and basically like screen time. That is disassociation. Disassociation has a role to play. And sometimes Netflix before bed, like, I'm right there. I'm watching Wednesday right now with my wife before bed. Um, what does disassociation do? It helps lower your heart rate. It can stop a cycle of adrenaline. Of course, it's great when you're bored and sick with the flu, right? But what this doesn't do is nurture us, right? And what rest does is nurture us. And the thing about television is that our bodies are resting, but we're letting people dream for us, right? Hollywood is dreaming for us. And so think about this, about what rest means the next time you're really looking for a break, because those things will help us check out, but they don't allow us to check in. And when we check in is when we actually rest. One of my guiding lights in this topic of rest is Sandra Dalton Smith. She wrote a book called Sacred Rest. She goes into all these different layers: physical rest, emotional rest, mental rest, and then spiritual rest. And that's a lot, and we don't have time for that today, but I'm focusing mostly on the physical and a little bit of the emotional. So, what physical rest is, and what I would recommend, is laying down and sitting comfortably and listening to music and giving the mind freedom to wander, to daydream. And of course, falling asleep, napping, but also things that maybe you wouldn't have thought of as rest, which could be sitting in nature or taking a bath. Uh, and what this all has in common is that there is a safe and sustained body positioning for the mind to expand and the heart to open. That's what true rest is. And so notice when in your life, when you're dragging, when you're feeling fractured, when you're not able to focus, or you're hyper distracted, when you're hungry between meals, these are calls to rest. Might also be a time to take a snack after that rest, right? It's a time to assume the position. And another one, and this one is super true for me, when I catch myself doom scrolling, like when I'm like trapped in the algorithm, when I'm on TikTok and I'm like flicking videos and I don't even know what I'm looking for anymore. This is my signal to rest, because what my mind wants to do is expand and to daydream. Uh, and that's tough to find the space for, right? So let's talk a little bit about emotional rest, which is a sort of a deeper level. Emotional rest is not a rest from having emotions. It's actually a time for checking in to be authentic. with the expression of our feelings, to own them and to acknowledge them. And so, right, we want to make room for that sustainably. And this is tough when we're doing justice work because we're often working with our own anger and frustration, which is absolutely part and a necessary part of confronting systems of injustice. I hear sometimes well-meaning people disavow their own anger in the spirit of nonviolence, resting in cosmic trust, love is a guided force. And that is important if for belief systems, but also, friends, it's okay to be angry. It's really okay. Because when we disavow, our righteous anger, we're we're bypassing our authenticity. We're kneecapping actually our own power. And I'm not talking about hate, right? I'm talking about appropriate righteous anger. I would even go so far as to say sacred rage is appropriate. There's a developmental psychologist, her name is Kim Corson. She says, quote, that anger, when expressed in nonviolent ways, can lead to advocacy for our own needs and for the needs of others. It lets us know our boundaries because behind every feeling of rage is a whisper, I need. So, what is it that I need, right? This is that quiet, strong voice that C.S. Lewis talks about. What is it that I need? Behind anger often is a lot of grief, lots of grief, right? And we need to make time for grief. It's a practice. And I know that as community leaders, or if you're a parent or a coach or leading any kind of organization or community, one of our professional hazards is that human ability to empathize with other people, to mistakenly interpret the feelings of others as our own. If you are a deeply empathetic person, often we have thin boundaries, which is a double-edged sword, right? We may feel the world more fully, but we also can get hurt more easily. We're more prone to emotional injury. So something we can ask ourselves is, how can I buffer my heart so I'm not so subject to injury from the emotions of others? And the answer is rest, right? The answer is rest. The fruit of this, the fruit of emotional rest, of making space is greater authenticity and feeling grounded and getting re-energized. It allows us to move our work forward and not always to please everyone, which of course is the other right aspect of being a community leader that we have to watch out for is try to please everyone. So this is a good time to take this daydreaming invitation. And so I invite you to, we'll take a couple of minutes. I have some prompts and we'll take like 4 minutes and then we'll come back. And so I'm going to say it out loud and then I'm going to paste it into the chat. The meditation is, how can you make time for self-care during this time of unrest, of constant pressures to perform for others? What can you commit to now for centering rest in your life in a more sustainable way? And specifically, besides making time for physical rest, what practices can you make for, or boundaries need shoring up to make space for emotional rest? And I'm going to put that in the chat. And so maybe choose one of these questions that you feel called to. You don't have to try to do them all. This is just take one of these questions and work with it however you'd like to work with it over the next few minutes, and we'll come back. Um, I'll turn my camera off and you can do the same if you'd like. And we'll come back, okay? I'll see y'all at, let's see, let's go to 38 minutes after the hour, okay? Everyone good? Everyone understand? Okay. Okay, y'all, you can, if you're finishing up here, we'll rejoin in a moment or two. Yeah, I'd like to welcome you all back. Uh, and okay, so I'm putting those books in the chat. It's Sandra Dalton Smith for Sacred Rest, and Rest is Resistance is Trisha Hershey. So, do y'all want to take a moment? Does anyone have anything that came up for them that feels okay to share? That it doesn't even have to be the content; it could be process. But how was that for you to reflect on that? Did something come up? Angelo and then Ian. Blonde. There you go.
Muted. Oh, we're all muted. I
Gotcha.
was trying to tell my mom, Lorraine, that she's muted while I was
Okay.
muted.
Well, the one that came up for me is just a practical thing about leaving some time where I'm completely off of screens. You know, maybe once a week or at least a half a day a week, because I'm overwhelmed, basically, often. So I don't know whether that's physical rest or emotional rest or whatever, but it seems like something practical that is very useful to do for me.
It's great. That's a good one. Yeah, I do something similar. I call it analog time. And so my practice now is I don't check the news until basically I've taken the kids to school and back and I have like a cup of tea or coffee in my hand. I do not because and this came out of waking up and being just like checking my phone first thing in the morning. What terrible thing has happened next? You know what I mean? And that's how bad it had gotten for me. I had given myself iPhone thumb. I had literally like was damaging myself. My yeah, there's there's a flexor there. I had to wear a cast for a month to heal my hand. And what did I do? What did I do? I just switched my iPhone to my other hand. Oh my gosh. And then I finally got the picture, but that so I had to wean myself. So information addiction is a big deal. And Angela, that's very practical and creating boundaries about when am I, imbibing is a good one.
Well, can you hear me? I had something that I wanted
Yeah.
to offer. Can people hear me?
Yeah, Lorraine, go ahead.
So during this thing, I'm not sure that I understood this the same the situation, but while I was relaxing, I fell asleep a little bit, and I just had a dream about a boy going through a door, and there was a young boy who was going through the door with me, and I had to open the door for him. For some reason, he needed some help. And I was just watching Michael Shmerkanish. You know him on CNN? He's from Philadelphia. He has an hour show on CNN, and his whole thing was about boys, about helping boys. The boys are in a bad shape in our country right now. They don't graduate from college. They're violent. The guy who shot Charlie Kirk was 22. 26 was Luigi, Mangione. And I think that uh, there's a thing for me. I don't know how I could do it. It's very important. And I really got into that. The boys are a problem. Boys are a real problem in this country. It's hard to raise boys. And um, it's a pandemic about uh, what how far behind they're getting behind girls. So I think if I do that's if I do dream, that's what I'm going to dream about. Boys.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate your share. And also just the dream image that you shared of opening the door. That's a powerful image and something that can anchor you and your work in the times ahead about like when I become distracted, what am I doing? I'm opening doors. What's the most important thing for me right now? I'm opening doors. Anyhow, thank you for that. That was wonderful. Anyone else want to share something that came up? And you can just raise your hand if we're having, because you might be muted and not able to unmute. Ken, did you want to share? There you go.
Yeah, I have more of a question than a share. Is that okay?
Sure.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm also dealing with insomnia. I mean, so that's not exactly, if it's off topic, I can withdraw the question.
No,
But
go ahead.
so here's my here. Let me explicate. Thank you. So occasionally I can't sleep all night, and or 1 hour a night or something, and so I'm awake all those hours, and I'm usually a little bit restless and unable to lie down and relax with some physical anxiety in my body, and it has been much more noticeable the last few months, which I relate to what you're talking about in the what's happening in the country and the world, the socio-political circumstances being so upsetting. But anyway, so I have these hours. I don't want to be awake, but I'm looking for ways to relax and rest that even if I can't sleep, but I can't lie still. I have to, I have cramps in my legs. I have to move around. Anyway, long story short, is there anything that you've encountered in your work or would comment or recommend related to what I'm sharing? Again, if it's off topic, I would withdraw the question.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you, Ken. It's totally related. And we don't have time to really delve into it, and because this is one of those topics that everyone kind of needs to find their own key. But I will say this, that it's not like a mental trick isn't going to save us from insomnia. It has to be also somatic, and it's about the body itself relaxing and creating a relaxation response in the body. And so it is helpful, especially if it's hours and hours, as I heard you say, to get up and to not ruminate and try to sleep in those times, but rather doing something. It could be like reading something that's not upsetting. It could be something comforting, maybe something that would possibly put you to sleep. Again, this is a great time to read books you've read in the past that you love and you've been wanting to revisit, for instance. I'm sure that you've got some works like that. Also, taking a bath, using water to create relaxation responses. And I don't know if you've ever tried the practice of yoga nidra, which is a whole thing, but you can find lots of practitioners on YouTube who lead guided meditations. And it's like sleep yoga. It's very gentle and it's often mental with some slight body movement practices. And so you're not just laying there. Um, so I'd start with that. And I don't have anyone I could recommend for yoga nidra right now, but maybe I know that there are some folks, but they're just not coming to mind. And of course, if anyone else wants to share yoga nidra resources in the chat, I recommend you do so. But good luck. I know I suffer with insomnia too. My wife does as well. Her thing is, and she told me I can share this, is so she plays Stardew Valley on her phone. And it's a very boring game where you go about and like farm things and gather resources. And each day in Stardew Valley is 11 minutes. And so she plays an 11-minute session, and it often gives her the relaxation response that she needs in order to try to sleep again. So, like I said, it's such a personal thing. We all got to have to find our key, but maybe that's some good starting.
Thanks, Ryan. I have discovered I was going through a lot of YouTube, and I just recently, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, happened to discover a yoga nidra meditation, but I didn't catch what you said about the game. You didn't say it clearly. Starting
Oh,
Valley?
it's called Stardew Valley.
What kind of valley is that?
I'll put it in the
Yeah,
chat.
it's not. I couldn't get the word.
Sorry, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've never heard of that. So you have to, sorry, you have to spell it or write it down for me.
It's an
Tell me.
aesthetic thing. If video, it might not be for you, but the idea is that what is an activity I can engage in that gives me a chance of a relaxation response. And I actually thank you, Angelo, just put in a recommendation for Yoga Nidra, and I remembered one too, which is Kim Mascaro has some things.
Okay.
Um,
I'm gonna write all those down, obviously.
yeah, we'll make sure that this stuff is available after the call for sure. So don't fret. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Sherry. It was absolutely. I just want to make a little bit more space. If there's anybody else who's got something they'd like to share that's been activated for them, we do have time for sure.
You have to unmute Pat, Ryan.
Hey, Pat.
Hi, I can't figure out how to put the hand raised up on here, so I do my own hand. But anyway, what I just wanted to share is what I find helpful is going out to see live music and see art and be around people who are artists and musicians, and I find it very helpful because it helps me to broaden my perspective, and the people who I think are more likely to understand the work that I'm involved in movement work over the years is really about changing the purpose of society towards the care of people and the planet, and kind of expanding our vision of what the world can be. And sometimes that people who have that creative work that they do, it can kind of identify with that, and I find it very helpful to be exposed to our music. And I also walk a lot. And so when I don't know what to do next, I think, okay, let me get out here and walk. And then something will clear up in the brain, or something that's and see, those are the things that I find helpful, and to um uh and also that to remind myself that we always do a multi-pronged approach. If you can't approach movement work this way, then we'll find another way to go on that way. And then we never give up. So that's kind of what helps sustain me.
Mm, nice. Thank you. It's really helpful. I love that. Yeah, and it isn't how, especially being around people who finding community. Community allows us to feel safer. I mean, that's a huge. It's huge. It's real, right? It's not a trick, right? It's like finding community. It's actually the essential thing. Thank you for that. Well, what I'd like to do is move on to the next part of our program,
I
which
think
is,
Rose is trying to say something.
Yeah,
oh,
so
I'm
yeah,
sorry. Let's see. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let me see.
thanks,
I don't
Miss
want to
Pat.
hold you up. I don't want to hold you back. It's okay. I mean, if you have a quick minute, I was just going to say
Go for it. Go for it, Rose.
I really appreciated your differentiating the checking in with yourself and kind of the checking out with the dissociation, because when I went through my reflection, I was real mindful of what I might now consider more of a dissociative way of resting versus a checking in, and how when I really want to get grounded, how critical it is for me, for the quiet, the space, the meditation, the out in nature, my ability to notice and release. You know, I will often, I've gotten to the point where I will give myself permission every day, especially if it's after lunch and news, to go upstairs, lay down for a few minutes or a half hour, whatever I need, with my dog and do a sound meditation of what's around me, just so I can regroup and re-energize to continue on throughout the day. Um, so this exercise really helped me pay attention to the different aspects that really are grounding and refueling versus more distracting, even
Mm.
if they're positively distracting. So I thank you for that.
Right. Great. Well, I'm really glad that worked. And yeah, and not to say that some dissociation is sometimes the right thing to do. I mean, so there's, I, s- I try to stay away from should language. You should do this. You should do that. When it comes to this stuff. And what you brought up for me, Rose, was for me in my process, especially with becoming chronically fatigued from long COVID, is that the permission to lay down and to nap was um, a process that, I mean, basically one has to confront one's own internalized ableism about, am I allowed to nap? And this is where I think Trisha Hershey's work is really helpful if you do have that struggle about, I don't have time to nap, or I don't deserve to nap, I haven't got enough done today, that kind of those kind of thoughts, because her whole platform is about how resting and napping is our right. It's not something that it's not a reward. Like it's what we
Yeah.
do, right? And
Yeah, I
so,
wanted to add for me, it's breathing and noticing and meditating. So it's kind of a combination of all during
right.
that time.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. So this is so good. And so we have to give ourselves permission. And that can be tough, but that's the process. That's the work. Uh, the work goes on. Right, so let's do it. Let's move into the second piece, which is about dreaming itself, and about the imaginal. And I just want to start with a brief story about my mentor, who was Jeremy Taylor. He passed away in 2018. He was one of the founding voices of the contemporary dream work movement. In his whole work, and he was a minister, he was a Unitarian minister, but he worked just with people and with dreams. It was focused on sharing dreams in non-clinical settings. So basically saying that it's not just clinicians who know what dreams are about, but we have the power ourselves to understand our own dreams and to work with them. And so he was democratizing dream sharing. And he was convinced that wisdom comes from within. And when we share our dreams as equals, we really give ourselves space to hear from others as well. And there's some ethics here, the dreamer having the last word about quote unquote what a dream means. But the ethics are easy. But his dream work started as a social work project in Berkeley, California, in the 60s. He was a conscientious objector during Vietnam. He was assigned to what they called alternative civilian service, and he was assigned to help a grassroots organization empower a poor Black community that was in Emeryville. And all of the original social workers for that community were white and young, and their initial service did not go well at all. They were basically rejected by the community for just not being able to connect and empathize with people. And so Taylor came in after this and he worked with those white social workers. And today we'd call this an affinity group. And so basically they processed their dreams about race and class in a non-judgmental sharing circle, right? And what they did is they were looking at what we would say is their collective shadow. As privileged white social workers, they were working with revealing their own internalized racism, their own internalized classism as it emerged through their dreams, right? Like the dream of being chased by somebody unknown is a very typical dream that you can often find this kind of shadow material, right? And so in this setting, they were able to basically reclaim the projections of their own inner poverty, their own inner authoritarianism. And in doing so, they were re-energized. They were able to be helpful, responsive to the community that they were called to serve. They were accepted by the community. The change had happened, and the work went on. And that was Taylor's first experience with this kind of social dreaming, or what he called group dream work. And he went to teach this dream work process in prisons, and he taught it to social workers, he taught it to psychologists, he taught it in university settings, which is where I trained with him uh, something like 20 years ago. Jeremy was a really intense person. He was a firebrand. He had a devastating critique of basically any organized structure. He was practically an anarchist in some ways. He thought that social systems destroyed us from the inside. He was devastating to theology schools he'd say that theology schools basically rub the mystical barbs off of visionary people. Uh, he was brutal about systems, and yet what he taught me was empowering. And I want to quote a long quote from him because I think you can really get him when you hear him speak. He spoke and wrote in the same fashion. It's kind of overwhelming, but I'm going to try my best to do it in Jeremy speak here. He said, people who are in touch with the spontaneous, archetypal, and creative imaginal impulse are always in creative ferment and revolution, whether they are intentionally insubordinate or not. And such people are always behaving spontaneously in new and unexpected ways that the oppressive authorities have not specifically prohibited because they have not yet thought of that. And for this reason, the restoration of a positive and dynamic and spontaneous relationship with our imaginative life is an absolutely critical part of any authentic and effective individual or collective liberation. That's the Jeremy Taylor download. Find him on YouTube. Like I said, he passed away a number of years ago. He has a lot of really wonderful video interviews that you can find. But here's what we can learn from Jeremy and from his work is that when we share our dreams to trusted friends in sacred circles, we open ourselves up, and not just to our own intuitive, creative, dreaming self, but to this larger network of other intuitive hearts and minds. You might say that we're opening a door, right? And when we do this, something happens, something unexpected does emerge. And I find that it's a grounded hope that is revealed. Not in denial of how brutal that the world is, but in our own ability to be creative and have a collective empowered response. So the good news is that dreams just don't randomly come to us, that there's actually a process of calling dreams for solutions to the things that we are already thinking about, obsessing about, consumed by, working with, healing from. Like whatever is already on our minds, we're going to dream about, and we can hone that process further. It's an ancient art. It's called dream incubation. It's been around for thousands of years. All the esoteric religious systems had dream interpretation practices. I mean, all of them, honestly. Christian mysticism, Tibetan Buddhism, Hermetic witchcraft, indigenous cultures around the world. And it's been discovered, I would say, rediscovered in modern times by plenty of scientists and inventors who realize that they often will wake up with the idea that solves the problem that they've been ruminating on, that there's something about dreaming imagination that is powerful. And of course, this is true, especially about when it comes to justice work. And the one brief story I wanted to tell, there's so many stories, but Harriet Tubman, the abolitionist, Harriet Tubman, it's well documented that she was a visionary dreamer and that she would incubate dreams, call dreams about how to literally navigate the route up north as part of the Underground Railroad, right, in the American Civil War. She would take a nap and become a bird in her dreams and soar over the landscape that they were on and look ahead, looking for the right roads and the right river crossings to get to the safe houses. She was basically a dream tracker. And what the evidence shows is that she probably learned this from her parents, who learned it from their grandparents, who came from West Africa along the Gold Coast. It was called the Gold Coast in the 1860s. She was Ashanti, and they have dream practices, and she knew them. And she used them to get people to safety. If you're interested in this topic, Robert Moss has written about this in his book, The Secret History of Dreams. And you could also probably find it in his blog if you were to Google this material. It's fascinating, but you don't have to be like a super duper visionary to get timely wisdom from dreams. We're all, I think it's open to all of us to get wisdom. When we call dreams, we get reflections back from the creative dreaming mind. I see it as the same mind, but we get new perspectives. If you're a mathematician or you're a scientist, you can lead to discoveries. We can get answers. And if you're a community builder and you're working with, relational issues, or you're working with logistical issues, or you're organizing like Gandhi, right? This is what happened with Gandhi. The answer came in the dream. And so I want to teach just very briefly, this process because it's easy. It's super duper easy. I call it dream calibration. And I use the word calibration because it reflects that we're calibrating basically the focused mind on what's already there, to what's already happening. We're tuning, right? We're tuning our mind to what's happening under the surface. We're tuning our executive function to have an intention and to focus our passion or intent where the heart already is. And so that's why I call it calibration. And the key to it is to set an intention and then to do so and to have a dream about the topic, to address the topic that you're interested in. The more clear your intention is, the more likely it is that the dream will come. And it's got to be something also that you're really feeling in your body, in your heart, in your gut, not just an idle curiosity. And so it really works well with these kind of issues for social justice because we are engaged on multiple levels and in community, right? And so, you know, some things to think about are like, am I looking for clarity or am I trying to decide between two choices? What is the best way to help me help my community? And all of these, again, it's got to kind of be somatic. You've got to go to sleep with this question on your mind. And so here's some good questions that you could ask. You don't want to ask yes or no questions. It's not like a magic 8 ball, right? You want to be like, what is it that I need clarity about? Or focus it. What is it in my advocacy work that needs attention? Or what is most important for me to focus on right now for the good of all beings using my best skills, right? Because often we're like, how can I put my skills to use, right? And you could even be a little more expansive. Show me what I need to see about my social justice work. Help me understand. You could even ask for healing gifts, like how can I feel safer and more courageous in my work? So here's the nuts and bolts of how to do it. You want to go to bed with your intention in mind. You're going to give yourselves time to wind down. And I really think that to do an incubation or a calibration well, it takes almost an hour to wind down completely. And so we're not watching Netflix right before bed. So I don't do dream incubation the same nights that I watch like Wednesday on with my wife before bed. There's a separate activities. When I'm in mode, I do everything I need to shut the house down or, make notes for myself, the worry notes about, oh, I've got to pay this bill and I'll do it tomorrow, whatever it takes to get the house done. I give myself the time it takes for my personal rituals in the bathroom to get clean. And then I take 15 or 20 minutes to have quiet time. And it can be in the bed itself, which could be music or reading or yoga nidra or looking at your dream journal, reflecting on past dreams, your spiritual practice, prayer, of course. If you have a meditative practice or a prayer practice, this can be integrated into your dream incubation, right? So we're relaxing before bed, we're shutting out the stressors and treating our bedroom like a sanctuary, like a dream sanctuary. And then you want to have this question linger as you close your eyes, as you are saying, okay, now it's time, I'm drifting to sleep. You want it to be the last thing that you think about in a focused manner, right? So you ask your question and envision yourself being happy getting an answer. Like, oh, here it is. Imagine what it's like to be surprised. Imagine what it's like to be given a gift, right? Like just create an opening for that. Uh, you're going to wake up the next day and you're going to want to record your dream as, as quickly as you can. And so you want to make space for that. Some people scrawl just a couple of words so they can remember it later. There's all kinds of apps now for, of course, for doing voice recordings that can be very easy, low friction. I recommend an app. It's called Elsewhere. You can record your dreams by vocally, and it'll go into text. It'll make a text version of the dream report. It's a free app. So however you do it, you make space in the morning for your dreams to come back, right? Um, and then we'll talk about soon about what to do next. But so let's see. Elsewhere. Oh, see. There's a question about elsewhere. I think you can also, by the way, do it desktop on your computer. So it's a digital dream journal. I'm involved with these guys. I'm not part of their company, but I'm working with them to make a physical dream journal. I'm going to publish their dream journal. They've got really solid data, data privacy regulations. They're not going to ever sell your dreams. And they work with some other dream researchers in the field. That's why I recommend them. So here's our roadmap for what's left because we're really kind of coming towards the end and there's some more stuff I want to get to you. I want to finish the thought about dream incubation with um, how to bring this home. And then we're going to talk about how to honor dreams. Uh, and then we'll have time for some discussion, I'm hoping. So that's our plan. What I wanted to say, the last piece I wanted to really say about dream incubation is to bring it home when it comes to justice work is to think about one focused topic that you're concerned about right now and choose one, and they're all connected, I know, but choose the one that heats you up the most, right? Maybe the one, I don't know you know, if if you're an angry person, but if it engages your rage, that's the one, okay? So what's the center of the white hot heat? So it could be about bigotry, it could be about maternal health in your state. I mean, it's, something that's local, something where that's happening in your community. And you may want to focus as well to integrate that with the idea of like, how can I help using my own skills, my position, you know, my network, my power, my status, how can I help for this issue? And so to create an intention could be something about, what is it that I need clarity about with helping this problem? Or what needs attention in my work? How can I help better? Or again, it could be something more diffuse, like show me what I need to see to learn, or help me understand. And what I really recommend, and I have a link for this, is to really to take this statement and to write it down, because it's and keep it short because it's easier to remember. And I have a download that I call the Big Dream Amulet that I'll send you. And when you put this into your browser, it basically will give you the chance, or it'll either open, it's a PDF. It'll either open the PDF or it'll force download the PDF, and then you can print it if you have access to a printer. But you don't need to do this. You can just write it down. Take this piece of paper that you've written your intention on, fold it up, put it under your pillow on the nights that you're incubating. It's shocking how effective this physical ritual additive is to this process. So that would be my recommendation for that. And do a dream incubation. Let it, you do it the nights that you have the space and the time, right? Which is not every night, clearly. It might be the night that the next day you can sleep in. So maybe you're doing it on a Saturday night, and Sunday morning you're more relaxed and you have more time to reflect on your dreams, right? You're setting yourself up for success. And you can use the same intention for several weeks in a row, but you want to record the dreams that have come every time you have a dream for the next week, whether you did the intention the prior night or not, because there's a bit of a delay sometimes, and who knows? And so you just want to be open to that, and this gets you into the habit of remembering more dreams. Anyway, super helpful. So what do we do with these dreams? And the way that you know, working with dreams and honoring the dreams and making sense of them is a perennial, I would say, problem. Dream interpretation is problematic. It's hard in some ways, but it's also playful if we let it be playful. If we think about it as possibility, about I'm reflecting on possibilities from this dream rather than trying to figure out what the message is. Because a dream could be many things simultaneously. And so I really like this idea of dream honoring, which is an indigenous technique that rather than try to project into the dream, we bring the dream further into our world. And so that means the dream comes, how can I honor this dream through a blessing or a ritual or a change of course in some aspect of my life that the dream addresses, right? Like basically move that. So if I dream about an image or a color even, or a stone, can I find a stone like that in waking life? Can I put it on my altar or on my desk to remind myself? So we're really changing our behavior based on our dreams. And it's an invitation to allow the dream to move into our life, to kind of percolate in our life. And it takes the pressure off of necessarily trying to figure out what the dream means, but how to let it live through us. And it works really well when you're making time to rest anyway, because your daydreaming will bring clarity and focus to some things naturally on its own. And this is where we're like, oh, here's my idea about that problem I've been working on. And it'll come in a new way, perhaps, right? So that's the idea. And this is, like I said, this comes from many indigenous or shamanic cultures. I learned it from my mentor, Apila Colorado, who is the founder of the Worldwide Indigenous Science Network, who I've worked with, and we've published some chapters together and some books. We've traveled together. We've done a lot of interesting dream work together over the years. And the way to break down dream honoring is like this. First, focus on the powerful emotions of the dream and think, how can I make a Thanksgiving offering to it? So how do I thank the dream for coming through? And this is absolutely individualistic to your own life and to your own cultural sensitivities and what just like feels right, you know? Second thing is, like I said, you want to watch for more dreams, but you also want to watch for synchronicities in the week to follow. Something will come up, something new, some new connections will come through. And then lastly, it is about honoring the dream in a sense, not just thanking it, but making an action in your life that speaks to the central truth of the dream, right? And when we've done this, often what's so cool is that we'll have another dream that will reflect upon this change, almost like, oh, you got it. And then that dream will, it's a conversation. It'll bring new information perhaps, or new emotional possibilities. And so it's a really beautiful process. And so if you're calibrating, say for clarity, right? Clarity or focus on some issue in social justice, you wait for the dream, you honor it in this way. You look at the dream, look at it emotionally, how it feels, as well as the images itself. But then ask yourself, why this dream now? This is what Jeremy Taylor used to say. He's like, why is this dream coming now? And you'll feel a synergy after you've honored this dream. That is the dream work. And that's really the end of what I wanted to present today. And I just wanted to summarize what we talked about, and we'll open up the discussion after this. We talked about centering rest. We talked about calibrating your dreams for your passions, for social change, for justice, and how your life and work can sustainably help the causes you care about the most. And then we talked lastly about how to honor these dreams and to work with them and bring the energy of the dream into the waking world and to create a conversation with the dream. And it's a lot to go through really quickly in 90 minutes. And I get that. This really is a lot. So I invite you to sleep on it and see what comes. And I do have an invitation for you if you do want to ever go deeper into dream work with me in the days to come, because I do have a dream community called the Dream Portal. And to become a member, there's 2 levels, and the foundational level, you get access to my Sacred Rest course, as well as a lucid dreaming course and a course in nightmares. And then I have a higher level course that includes some small group coaching, as well as dream experts that come in. We have a book group occasionally. And also my colleague, Katrina Dreamer, does a quarterly 6-week program on dreams, intuition, and social justice. And their program is starting in November, I think is the next time they're going to run it. And they're going to go into intuition and dreams and social justice and everything about that in a secure, cohort model for 6 weeks. And so if you're interested in that, I'll send you the link where you can learn more about the portal. And I have a coupon for you if you want. And you can always email me, y'all, if you want more information about these things. I'm very open. And I'll just send you these links. And here, by the way, is a coupon code you can put in the cart to get 20% off the membership at either level. But we've got a few minutes, and I really wanted just to know, like, how is it sitting with you? What's coming up with you? And if you do want to share an aha moment, like something, maybe an intention that you want to say for your days ahead, this could be a good way to check out too. We can put that out into the space and give that some power. And so raise your hands if you all want to talk because because of the way that the mutes are working. Hey, Angelo.
Yeah, you shared a lot. The thing that comes up for me a lot, or come up from during this conversation, is about social dreaming, and it seems that we, as a society, don't do that very much. And I'm just thinking about it in the group relations world. Often, people will incorporate sort of social dreaming into the process of a 5-day thing. It seems like a tremendously useful thing. And we don't really have time to get into a long discussion about it. But anyway, that's the thing that comes up for me.
Yeah, and this is something that, you know, I'd love to empower folks to start their own cohort in their own dream group because you don't need a dream expert to have a dream group. You know, and that is really the whole, I think, mission of the contemporary dream work movement for the last 40 years is that folks, let's get together with your peers and your friends and create a space and share a dream. And I do recommend Jeremy Taylor's work for that. And he wrote a number of books. They're all essentially the same work that he revised like 3 different times. Let me see if I can find it. It's always within reach. Oh, there it is. This is the new one. So, The Wisdom of Your Dreams is Jeremy Taylor's. I think this is his most revised work and it has lots of practical tips about how an organization can start its own dream group or how you can do it in your community as a meetup or whatever. And um, totally recommend it. And it could be really wonderful if you have a social justice community or a book group or something like that that you can integrate dream sharing into that. It creates so much tenderness of sharing when we do that work together. Hey, Lorraine. Let's see. I just pushed a button. Let's see.
Mute. Just very quickly, I like the idea of working on your dreams. I haven't done it in a while. I also have insomnia issues, uh, the way Ken has, and I think some of it has to do with just age. But I'm gonna try that. Putting some, I think that might work. Putting something under my pillow. What I'm interested, I'm gonna do that. And if I have something to focus on like that, it may, I don't know, calm me down and focus on one thing and see if it helps in terms of um dealing with my insomnia.
Great. Thank you for sharing that intention. Yeah, good luck with that. And I guess, if there is a bright side to insomnia, it gives us another chance to ask myself, did I have any dreams when I was sleeping before? And what do I want to dream next? And so we can use these moments to do this work. Now it's different if you're, not sleeping at all throughout the night, but if you have periodic insomnia, it can be helpful. So yeah, more awakenings equals more chances to recall dreams and to focus our dreams. I guess it's not much of a bright side, but work with what you've got.
So I
Anyone
had a
else?
question for you,
Oh,
real
go
quick.
ahead. Hey, Rose.
Hey, first off, thank you for everything. I really appreciated this, and we'll continue the work in this realm. Like Angela said, in group relations world, we do a lot of social dreaming matrices that are part of the conference. And when I was on staff at the national one in New Orleans, the director had all of us have pen and paper by our bedside, and said, if you wake up and you have any tidbit of dream, write it down. Don't get out of bed, don't turn a light on, but write it down immediately. And so I kind of try to incorporate that practice. Do you recommend that in your incubation practice or no? I mean, it was fascinating to see collectively how the dreams emerged throughout the conference, throughout different people. The parallels that existed was just so fascinating. Anyway, do you recommend doing that in your process
Yes,
or no?
absolutely. And that's so cool. And so dream recall, as you all know, dreams float away so quickly. And so it is helpful to record it as soon as you can. Um, what I recommend kind of in a larger way is to, if you wake up by an alarm, like I have to wake up by an alarm 5 days a week to get the kids to school. And so I put in 5 minutes of buffer time. It's, I think, actually 8 minutes of buffer time of snooze. And the first snooze for me is just for reflecting on what just happened to me in my crazy ass dream life. What just happened to me? Where did I just go? Where was I? And that way, I've trained myself that I am not waking up with, oh, panic, what do I have to do? Where I have to go? Right. So I'm literally doing what C.S. Lewis is suggesting. It's like creating this buffer. And there's something odd about dream recall as well, is that if you say wake up and move and hit snooze on your alarm, if you go back into the same position that you woke up from when you had that dream, it's easier to recall that dream.
Ah,
There's a somatic aspect to this work because a dream is in the body. It's not just in the brain. It really is. We're dreaming bodies. And so that can be helpful. And it and there's friction here with writing a dream down because our handwriting can often be awful and the light can be low, especially in the morning, especially if you have some arthritis like I do. Like first thing, I don't want to hold a pen the first thing in the morning. Like that's not fun for me. And so I try to focus on and these anchor points, like the most vivid image or the most emotional tone or an interaction, and I'll get that down. And then when I have more time, it's enough for me to get the larger narrative. Um, and then again, there's these apps that, and I think some of these apps are really helpful for people where you just hit play on your phone and you mumble into your phone what was the dream that you just had, and it records it. And Elsewhere, why I love Elsewhere is that it does that, and then it creates a text version from your voice. I mean, just same thing that we do now with, on a phone with chat and whatnot. Like the APIs are open for this stuff. The transcription's gotten so much better than it used to be just even 5 years ago. So I think the friction to remembering dreams is less than it ever has been because of these technologies. But it might be that the best technology is yourself and your practice and your memory practice, and to just give yourself that space to literally just move back into what did I just experience, and let yourself kind of ride along with it. And maybe you'll fall back asleep. Sometimes I do, and then but I'm on snooze, so I come back in 8 minutes. So that's how I would recommend it, in 2 minutes or less. Great. Well, thank y'all for your attention. Really wonderful to be with y'all in community today. And it's recorded, so you can always, it was a lot of information, so you can always go back and watch it again in case you missed stuff. And I'm going to work on getting some links together for all the works that I mentioned and the apps and stuff. So don't worry if you feel like you missed some of that stuff. And I will work together to make sure that you get that information.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Ryan, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And yeah, I look forward to sharing more and with the group. And maybe our little sacred inclusion network will do a dream incubation thing. We'll see. Social dreaming, that's what I'm looking for. That's the word.
Love it. Absolutely. Great. Well, take care, y'all. Thank